needed emotionally and act on it without being asked. For someone who had spent her career around countless celebrities, encountering that kind of compassion from someone so famous and so associated with comedy stood out as something rare. Looking back, Field has called the moment unforgettable. She remembers sitting in her camper feeling numb, unsure how she would get through the rest of the day, when Robin's presence arrived like shelter in the middle of a storm. There was no speech, no dramatic scene, just quiet, decisive kindness. It wasn't part of any script, but she has said it remains one of the most real moments she experienced on that entire production. That day captured something essential about who Robin Williams was beneath the public persona. The world knew him for his manic energy and comic brilliance, but those closest to him saw a man capable of sensing pain in others and stepping in without hesitation. Someone whose quiet kindness spoke louder than any joke ever could. The compassion Robin showed Sally Field on that difficult day wasn't an isolated incident. It was simply how he moved through the world. Cast and crew members across his project have described the same pattern. He remembered people's names, asked about their lives, and made everyone feel seen regardless of their role on set. He would spend breaks talking with grips or makeup artists not out of obligation, but because he genuinely wanted to connect with the people around him. That generosity extended well beyond film sets. Robin co-founded Comic Relief USA, a charity that raised significant funds to support people experiencing homelessness. He also gave quietly to causes including literacy programs, veteran services, and organizations supporting people with disabilities. He used his fame as a platform for others rather than only for himself, and he did it without seeking credit. Sally Field has spoken with visible emotion about the lasting impact he had on her life. Even years after his death, she has said she still feels his presence, once remarking wistfully that he should have been growing old alongside her. That sentiment carries both grief and deep appreciation, recognition of a rare person whose warmth touched everyone he encountered. Other actors who worked closely with him echoed the same observation. Colleagues have noted that behind his comedic brilliance was someone who felt things intensely and could sense unspoken emotion in the people around him. Many people only ever saw the fast-talking characters and wild humor. They never witnessed the quiet empathy that defined him behind the scenes. What made Robin Williams' story especially heartbreaking is that the same sensitivity he showed to others was rarely something he received in return during his final months. In early 2014, Robin was navigating a series of difficult transitions. His television series had been canceled after a single season, a disappointing outcome for someone who had spent a lifetime as one of entertainment's most reliable draws. He was also adjusting to a second marriage after a difficult divorce, trying to find stable footing in his personal life even as professional setbacks mounted. Then came devastating medical news. In May of that year, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. For a man whose identity was so tied to quick thinking and physical expressiveness, the prospect of losing those abilities was frightening. Already dealing with anxiety and depression, the diagnosis compounded his emotional struggles significantly. It later became clear that even this diagnosis didn't tell the full story. An autopsy after his death revealed that he had actually been suffering from Lewy body dementia, a serious and aggressive neurological disorder affecting cognition, movement, and behavior, one that can also produce severe depression, confusion, and hallucinations. Because its symptoms can be inconsistent and difficult to interpret, even medical professionals had struggled to identify it correctly while he was alive. Those close to him noticed troubling changes in his final months. Increased anxiety, withdrawal, memory lapses, and visible fear about losing control of his own mind. For someone whose entire way of being was rooted in spontaneity, these symptoms represented an especially cruel unraveling. And yet, publicly, he continued smiling and joking, largely masking the severity of what he was experiencing internally. On August 11, 2014, Robin Williams died by suicide at his home in California. The news sent shockwaves through the world, prompting an outpouring of grief from fans, friends, and colleagues. For many, it was also the moment they first understood just how much he had been silently struggling. His wife, Susan Schneider, later described the experience of watching his decline as something akin to fighting an invisible, cruel intruder inside her husband's mind. His death sparked important public conversations about mental health and the dangers of misdiagnosis, along with a broader reminder that even those who, Some friendships are loud, built on constant contact and public displays. Others live in the small, unscripted moments that never make headlines. The connection between Sally Field and Robin Williams belonged firmly to the second category, a bond forged not through fame or spotlight, but through mutual respect, creative trust, and one act of kindness that Sally kept private for decades before finally choosing to share it. When Sally Field first worked alongside Robin Williams, she quickly realized he was far more than the manic comic energy audiences knew from his stand-up and film roles. Beneath the improvisation and rapid-fire jokes was an actor who took his craft seriously, someone who cared about honoring a story rather than simply landing the next laugh. For Field, a performer who had built her own career on discipline and emotional honesty, that depth of commitment was unexpected, and it earned her respect immediately. Their most famous collaboration, Mrs. Doubtfire, revealed exactly how that respect translated into their working relationship. Robin had a method to his madness on set. He would run through a scene exactly as written for the first several takes, hitting his marks and delivering the dialogue as scripted. Then, once the required takes were finished, he would let go. He'd begin experimenting, trying new voices, inventing lines, shifting his physicality, following whatever creative impulse struck him in the moment. The atmosphere on set would shift along with him, turning charged and unpredictable in the best possible way. For many co-stars, that kind of spontaneity might have been unsettling. Field embraced it instead. Rather than clinging to her rehearsed lines, she let herself respond to Robin in real time, and the resulting performances carried an authenticity that scripted takes rarely achieve. The emotion in their scenes together wasn't always planned, but was real, and that rawness made the characters feel more human. What made their chemistry work wasn't that they matched each other's energy. It was that they didn't. Robin pushed outward into invention and risk. Field held the emotional center, staying grounded while he improvised around her. That contrast created a kind of balance that neither could have achieved alone, and it gave their shared scenes layers of both humor and feeling. Off camera, the same dynamic held. Robin was known for treating everyone on set, not just his fellow stars, with warmth and attention. He noticed the people around him, checked in when someone seemed to be struggling, and never seemed too busy for a kind word. Field saw this consistently, and it left an impression on her that outlasted the production itself. The trust between them wasn't built on big gestures. It came from countless small moments of genuine collaboration, and that trust is part of what made their on-screen work together feel so alive. Years after Mrs. Doubtfire wrapped, Sally Field finally spoke publicly about a moment she had kept to herself, one that revealed a side of Robin Williams that almost no one got to witness. During filming, Field received devastating news. Her father, who had been in a nursing home after suffering a stroke, had died. She was on set that day, stationed near a mock courtroom for an emotional divorce scene. Rather than step away, she tried to push through. She had spent decades building a reputation as a consummate professional, a two-time Oscar winner known for showing up and doing the work. And her instinct was to keep going, to hold her grief inside and get through the scene. Robin noticed immediately that something was wrong. He wasn't in character, and he wasn't performing for anyone. He was simply paying attention. Sensing the tension she was trying so hard to conceal, he walked over, gently pulled her aside, and asked if she was okay. When she told him her father had just died, he didn't hesitate for a second. His response was immediate. They needed to get her away from set right then. Despite being the film's lead actor and producer with real influence over production schedule, Robin didn't think twice about using that influence for her sake. He went straight to director Chris Columbus and asked whether the day's courtroom shots could be filmed without Sally, so she could leave immediately. The schedule was rearranged on the spot. While Field left to grieve and begin making funeral arrangements with her family, the rest of the cast and crew simply worked around her absence for the remainder of the day. It wasn't a grand or public gesture. There was no announcement, no fanfare. Robin acted quickly and quietly, motivated by nothing more than genuine concern for a colleague in pain. Field has since described this side of him as deeply sensitive and intuitive, someone who could read what a person,